Hello and welcome, dear viewer. In this video, I'll explain to you everything that came in Steve Harvey's legendary book, which may change your life forever. Steve Harvey says that every person has a vision of the life that he desires. Some of us imagine the project that he will do and will make him rich. Others, the position he will reach. Others imagine the hobby that he wants to excel in, or the level of education he wants to reach. Almost all of us have in our minds an image of the life that we would like to live one day. But there is no successful person in this universe who did not jump towards the life that he wanted to live. And what Steve Harvey means by jumping is to jump the leap of confidence. It is to take risks and do the impossible to reach your goal. Because according to the laws of the universe, this perception that exists within your mind about the life that you wish for has a price that you must pay. And the perception that exists within you cannot be seen by any human being in the same way that you see it. So when many of us try to explain his dreams and goals to others, he will find that the majority of people do not understand, accept or support the idea and the perception. And the reason is that there is no person who can perceive this idea as you imagined it. I'll give you an example. Imagine that Lionel Messi, when he was young with his illnesses, told someone that he wanted to become the best player in the world, the best football player, that is. Of course, the dream of this boy who suffers from a disease and that you cannot even be sure whether he will live to see the next day will be ridiculed. But look at him now, the greatest football player in history. He succeeded because this was the perception in Messi's mind. And according to Steve, God put in the mind of every person a vision of the life he wants and the person he wants to become. He also gave him a gift to realize this perception. And this gift is the talent that the Creator gave us. And if you are wondering what is your talent is what you do with utmost perfection and with the least possible effort. Quite simply, this is your talent. Maybe you don't like it or you don't want it, but it is your gift. Steve says that whatever your talent is, don't underestimate it. In the university days, Steve and his friends used to go out with each other, but a friend of theirs refused to go with them and told them that he would go back to sleep because he had to get up early to mow Mr. Johnson's lawn. They were laughing at him because he mowed the lawn daily for a few dollars, but this person now has a company in Cleveland that cuts the lawn, the market value of which reaches $4 million. Exactly, this is his talent, and which he had worked miracles with. And Steve tells us that there is another friend whose talent is car washing. It may seem really strange, but this person loves washing cars, and his annual income now is $800,000 a year, just from the car washes that he owns. This is the gift that God gave him, through which he jumped and reached the vision that was in his mind. And Steve tells us that there are many people in your life who achieved the accomplishments and visions they wanted, got the car they wished for, the house, or did their dream project. All of these jumped in order to fulfill their dreams. You just have to believe in the perception in your mind and use the gift that you have and take a leap of confidence towards achieving these goals. And he said, look at the issue of being a person stuck in a cycle of daily routine, waking up in the morning and going to work that you often do not like. The important thing is that you have a fixed lifestyle. Sleep, eat, work 8 hours, salary at the end of the month, and repeat. Which means that there are no developments in your life for a long time. So Steve says that this is not living. This is just you being present in life. Real living is when you jump and take risks and experiments, right and left, until you reach the life in your mind. And when you reach the perception in your mind and achieve it, no matter how small it is, this is what is called living. But keep this in your mind well. When you jump, I am very sorry, but the parachute will not open directly. I wish you would open the parachute, but you just can't. It's not that easy. Parachute will not open the first time, and you will fall, and you will bleed and suffer and get tired and miserable. But believe me, and I'll give you a promise. One day, the parachute will definitely open, and you will succeed in flying in the air, and you will enjoy the great victory that you have achieved, because you, my friend, have jumped. The parachute eventually had to open because you jumped and because you took the risk. And since you took the risk, it should open. With what you have experienced, it should open. And Steve tells us that this promise is not from him, but from God. And there is no human being who has jumped but fulfilled this promise. But there's one condition, which is you do not give up and keep moving forward. Do not lose faith that you can achieve this matter, and do not stop working and jumping at all costs. Because you took the risk, you have to keep going. And then he says that you have a choice. You can jump or you can play it safe. You can stand on the edge and watch without doing anything, because jumping is already going to hurt you. But I'll also have a promise to you. If you choose this option, I promise you that your parachute will never open, and you will never reach the place you dream and want to live. You will never reach it because you're just standing in your place, and your dream is on the other side. And this is true. If you want to reach the life that is in your mind and that you always wish to live, you must use your talent and believe in it and jump towards confidence, risk, experience, and work, and keep jumping no matter how much you keep falling, and in the end, you will reach. Steve Harvey also jumped, but he did not jump from poverty to richness, but rather he jumped from homelessness. Steve Harvey lived the life of homelessness for 3 years, and now his fortune is estimated at $200 million, and his annual salary is estimated at $45 million. Steve says that he got all of this just by telling jokes. I make people laugh, and that's what I get, because that's the gift that God gave me. And now I'll give you the story of Steve Harvey and how he jumped and became the successful person he is today. Steve, at the age of 9 years, says that their teacher asked them to write their goals in life. The children wrote their goals on paper, and the teacher gathered them together. She began to read the goals of each of them aloud, and when she reached my paper, speaking as Steve Harvey, she read what I wrote silently. Steve wrote that he wanted to appear on TV. The teacher called me and told me to read my dream to the students. Steve climbed the board and carried the paper in his hand to read his dream, but in those days he had a problem, as he was suffering from stuttering. Steve stutters, and the teacher tells him that he will never appear on TV. You can't even read one sentence in front of your friends, and you want to appear on TV? This is what she told him harshly, and she ordered him to go to his mother and tell her about his dream. Poor Steve, before he woke up from the shock of his teacher, who should have been a role model and an inspiration for him, he found his mother at home. Steve's mother scolded him and blamed him for the words he wrote, and told him that he's a disappointment to the family with these words. There is no one in our family who appears on television, and I do not want to hear from you again this talk about appearing on the television. The Steve Harvey that you see today was suffering at the age of 9 years old. His dream was being destroyed before his eyes by the people closest to him. He was receiving a huge amount of trauma that would have broken the resolve of any other child and make him give up his dream. Not to mention the amount of bullying and laughter he was subjected to when he stuttered at school from his colleagues. And despite all that, Steve is on top now, and there are no circumstances or reasons that prevent you from achieving your dream and achieving the picture in your mind. No one can understand the greatness that lies within you except you. No one can imagine what you imagine. So who would have thought that Steve, who could not speak in front of the class, would become this brilliant presenter? Never give in to any circumstances. You have to work and continue. You must never stop. Steve's father saw him sad, so he asked him, "What's wrong with you?" Steve told him everything that happened, and that he still wanted to appear on the TV. Steve's father was silent for a while and then said, "Son, continue your dream. You will achieve it one day, and I will support you." Steve's father's words were invaluable and stuck in the mind of this 9-year-old boy. As the year passed, Steve graduated from high school and was accepted into the university. Steve was so proud of himself for being accepted into the university, and his mother cried for him and told him, "Steve, you're going to be a great person in the future." And indeed, Steve is now a great person in the future, but not the person you wanted him to be. Steve says, "The days passed and the study was a bit difficult for me, and there were subjects that I was afraid of failing in, and any subject that I was afraid of failing in, I would skip its class, and after the accumulation of absences, I would definitely be expelled from the university. On the days of exams, my mother invited me to the kitchen and told me, 'Hey Steve, there's an envelope that reached you, and I have to read it for you. You're expelled from the university.' Then my mother cried. Steve was surprised that he had been expelled during the exam period, but remembered the word of one of his friends who told him, 'You cannot finish anything in your life.' My failure at the university was really painful, and the bullying was reaching me from everywhere, but I thought to myself, this university failure, what can I learn from it? After a long thought from Steve, he found that he really is not interested in the university, and that his dream and his vision was to appear on television. Entering the university was an attempt to fulfill the dreams of Steve's family and friends, but appearing on the TV is in order to fulfill Steve's dream, which no one else can see as Steve himself sees it. Steve jumped after the university failure and started looking for a job, and actually got one, and he worked in Ford Company, and he was making some money from that. Steve helped his family and friends. His financial condition was good at that time, to the point he was paying some of his friends' bills at the university, and he supported them financially, so that Steve was inviting them to go out at his expense. So Steve's visit to his friends at the university was a source of joy and happiness for them. But Steve says, "If you think like me that life would go well in this way without any change, then you're wrong." Ford closed the factory and Steve Harvey became unemployed, and now he's going through a failed experiment again. But Steve at this point realized that there is a hidden message behind what happened, and that he had to jump again to the next stage. Steve was working in all available professions and was jumping from a place to place, and he was thinking, if Ford's factory had not been closed, was it possible for me to continue my life as an employee there forever? Steve's dream could have ended had it not been for these obstacles that he went through. Failure and falling will actually push you to jump for what you want, and Steve Harvey's real journey begins, where he said that he really loved making people laugh, and this was his passion in life, to sit with others and make them laugh, and he was already a master at making jokes, and he says that at some point he was doing a stand-up comedy, and Steve used to sell his jokes at very cheap prices. One day Steve met a woman and sat with her and a group of others and made jokes and made them laugh. The woman liked him and told him that he was wonderful, and asked him to join them in the comedy club and participate in stand-up comedy. She told him that there are other people, and mentioned among them the person Steve writes joke for. So Steve told her that he is the one who writes jokes for him, and she said then join us. Then took him to the club and told him that there was a 5-minute segment. If the comedian succeeds in making the audience laugh, we will pay him, and if he does not succeed, he will lose his chance. There were 10 people there, and Steve was confident of his talent, and sure, this is the field he was born for. And because of Steve's confidence in his talent, he said that when he hears the jokes, he knows how it will end, and he knows the joke that will make the audience laugh, and also the jokes that will not make the audience laugh. The comedians began to stand up and tell jokes, and it was the role of the 10th person who was not present, so the last person was sought from the presenters of the next day's show. Steve Harvey, it's your time. Steve heard his name and turned to the lady and asked her, whoa, there's another comedian with the same name as me presenting tonight. The lady turned to him and told him, you really are stupid. It's your name, go up. Steve couldn't believe that he finally got his chance, and Steve actually went up and told some jokes, and the audience exploded with laughter, and he really knew it. And when the show ended, the lady gave him $50, and on his way home with her, he was crying. The lady was amazed at Steve and told him this is just $50, you haven't seen anything yet. But Steve tells her that she doesn't understand. This is not just $50, this is $50 that I made out of my hobby and my passion and the thing that I love to do and I was born to do. The next day, Steve jumps again and offers his resignation as a sales representative. From now on, Steve wants to live the life he envisioned when he was young, the life that was in his mind and that deserves to jump for it again and again. And Steve Harvey's career began in the theater from a club to a club, and he really started making some money. Steve's conditions improved for a while, but life comes again and proves to Steve that permanence is impossible. Things got worse for Steve and he lost his wife and became homeless on the streets. Steve lived in his car for 7 years, moving from a city to a city, hoping that the parachute would open and he would reach the life he envisioned. When Steve was traveling in the United States of America looking for his opportunity, he was looking at creation and the mountains, river, trees, and realized something very important. Nature is very beautiful, and its beauty lies in the fact that there are no straight lines in it. What made nature so wonderful are its twists, high mountains and winding plateaus. And this applies to our lives as well, as you cannot reach your goal in a straight way. You'll get tired, you will fall, you will get up, and you will fail and succeed. And there will be moments when you will question yourself, will I really achieve what I set out to do? This is life, it will not be easy or straight, and this is the beauty in it. While Steve was driving his car, he was thinking about the previous days in which he failed, and he was thinking about all harsh experiences that he went through. Steve was looking at the windshield of the car and looking at the small mirror in which he sees what is behind the car, where he imagined that the car is his life and that the windshield is the future that he seeks. While the past is what he sees through the small mirror, you will see the past in a small mirror only to learn from it and not to repeat the same mistakes again. As for the real success, it will be for the front mirror, in which you see the world as it is and represents your reality and your future, through which you see the whole world and see your destination. Even if this destination is towards the unknown, but at least you're walking towards your dream. The people who are stuck in the past and who drive their cars using the rear mirror only, you find them colliding with everything that stands in front of them, because it is impossible to drive a car using the rear mirror only. In order to continue in your life, you must look at the windshield, and and in the rear mirror, give it light glances to learn from the past. And this is what was going on in Steve's imagination as he wandered between the states. Simply, Steve's idea is that there are no straight lines in life, and this is what made life beautiful. You must look forward and learn from the past in order to reach the goal. Steve says that whatever happened to him in the life of homelessness, his response to it was positive no matter what. He always laughs and smiles and tries to diffuse the situation. He also says that positive thinking should not only be before the occurrence of bad events, but you have to deal positively with the problems that occur. This will make you overcome the ordeal faster. And Steve tells us one of the stories where he slept one day in a national park. Steve parked his car near a lake and slept there. So Steve woke up to the high water level of the lake, where he found himself in the middle of the water. Steve woke up terrified and in his panic opened the car door and made the water enter him more and more and made things even worse. But in the end he was able to get out of the lake and kept looking at the car as it was sinking. There was a person standing next to Steve and told him that they always raise the lake water level at down. So how did he not know this? Anyways, the thing is, Steve's car broke down and was completely spoiled. But the puzzling thing is that Steve was laughing so hard because of the situation. Steve was laughing at his stupidity. Steve was dealing with the situation despite its badness with great positivity. And he said that he did not know that he was positive and that all his reactions were just spontaneous responses. But there have been times for Steve where he felt sad and in pain. And this is normal because he is a human. And this feeling we all go through. And make sure that when you jump, this is what you will go through. Difficulties, sadness, anger, laughter, happiness. You will live different experiences and in different environments. You'll see many people who will help some of them, and you will not forget their good, and others will try to destroy you. But in the end, achieving your dream will depend on you, and the way you deal with these problems. One of these problems made Steve cry one day, and I'll tell you the story of Steve crying. Steve, in his homeless days, he used to go to hotels to take showers. He collects the bathroom towels and then wets them with soap and water and then washes himself. Then Steve waits for the hotel workers to change the bathroom towels so he can use the new ones to dry himself. One day while Steve was washing himself in the toilet, the bathroom is filled with people because there was an event in the hotel, and when the moment of rest came, people gathered in the bathrooms. Steve stayed stuck for 2 hours in the toilet, and then he collapsed and began crying and said to himself, "This is not life." And despite that, Steve continued his quest and determination to appear on the television. And Steve says, when you will be homeless for 3 years, then the turn back moment will surely come to you. There will come a moment in your life that makes you just give up, and you will say, "I have had enough of this. I've had enough of this life. It seems that I am not destined to succeed and achieve my dreams." The same thing happened with Steve when he was sitting in Florida station with only $35 in his pocket. He looked at himself and said, "Man, I can't live this life anymore." Steve decided to go home, but he was feeling very embarrassed because he had to call his father and ask to go home at the age of 30 until he finds himself a job. Steve goes to the payphone and inserts a dime and enters his number, but finds a sudden message in the voicemail saying, "Hi Steve, this is Chuck Sutton from the Apollo show. We have seen some of your tapes and we think you have the opportunity to come with us on the Sunday night show and appear on TV. Call me if you are interested in the deal." Steve says that the Apollo show on Sunday is in New York and I am currently in Florida, and the distance between the two states is imaginary, more than 16,000 kilometers. The time will not be enough for him to arrive because the offer came to him in Thursday. Steve says, "Man, I give up. What all this madness that I live in, even my chance that I dreamed of is in front of me, but it is impossible for me to reach it." And in a moment Steve thought and said maybe he meant the next Sunday. So he inserted the coin again and listened to the message again, and the same message is playing. And Chuck means this Sunday, not the next one. Steve is frustrated, but at the same time another message plays in his voicemail saying, "Steve, this is Tom Sobel from Comedy Caravan. We're in Florida and we would like you to make a show for us. And if you can come, we'll pay you $150. Call me if you're interested." Steve calls Tom directly. "Hey Tom, what's up? Is your offer still standing?" Tom replies, "Of course." Steve says, "Well, I'm 3 hours away from you. I'll come on Friday and make the show." Indeed, Steve made the offer and took the $150, and Tom told him that his show was fabulous and that he was on a high level and better than the person who would present Saturday's show. "Steve, do you have time to make a show on Saturday and we'll give you another $150. Indeed, Steve made the show and got the money. Then he bought a round-trip plane plane ticket to New York for $99. And finally, Steve arrives in New York with only 2 bags, and this is all he owns. Steve went directly to the Apollo show because he had nowhere to live. Steve went to the show early and asked the security man to let him enter, but the security man refused. Steve begged him and told him that he was homeless and he had nowhere to go. So he helped him, but warned him not to do anything stupid because letting him sit here in the first place is against the law. Don't move from your place. Steve goes up to the 6th floor and breaks his back from carrying bags. He rests for a bit, then after a period of time, he feels hungry. So he goes down to the security man again and asks him to let him go buy something, because hunger will kill him. The security man gave him half an hour to buy chicken from KFC. If Steve does not arrive, the place will be closed until the showtime. Steve runs off to buy chicken and returns to the 6th floor, waiting for his chance for which he was born. Finally, the showtime came and there were a lot of current celebrities there, but at that time they weren't, including Dwayne Johnson and Jamie Foxx. The Rock entered the stage and was booed by the audience. The same thing happened with Jimmy, but Jimmy was a bit smarter. He used his talent in singing and won the audience approval somewhat. And finally, it was Steve's turn. Steve knew that this was the thing he mastered and that was the thing he was born for, and he was confident in his performance. And indeed, Steve goes up to the stage and makes a very famous joke about Mike Tyson, and the audience explodes with laughter. Steve knew it before it happened. He was confident in himself and his talent. He fought to get there, but he did what he had to do. Steve knew that the parachute had finally opened, and at that night he took more than $700, and he said he had never earned that amount before in his life. In 2 days he had earned more than $1,000, and the most important thing is that he had earned this money from the work he loves. Years later, a contract was signed with Steve as the main presenter of the program, and he was the only presenter who was able to present the program for a full 8 years. Steve achieved his dream and appeared on TV, and since then his condition is way better. Of course, he went through some setbacks, but his situation kept getting better. Remember the teacher who made fun of Steve when he was 9? Steve Harvey on birthdays always sends her a TV as a gift and tells her to turn it on and watch him on it. Steve achieved his dream, and people like you do not deserve to be teachers. That dreamy little boy didn't give up even though you made fun of him. He resisted, he fought, he jumped and opened his parachute. History will immortalize him as one of the best comedians. As for you, teacher, turn on the TV and watch this great man who refused to be a slave to the ideas of others. He may not have been able to say 2 words in front of the class at the age of 9, but he was able to make millions laugh in the future and was able to inspire and change the lives of many people. Your potential is unlimited. Believe in yourself and don't let anyone make fun of you. Jump and fight and open your parachute. Fall and get up and suffer, but do not give up your dreams. There is greatness inside you that you have to discover. Steve's story is an inspiring and immortal story in history. You can achieve anything as long as you're still breathing. Steve tells you that if God closes one door in your face, he will open another. You just have to believe in yourself. Steve was expelled from college, so he worked at Ford. The door of Ford was closed. He worked in other jobs. The door of those jobs closed. Steve became involved in comedy clubs. The doors of comedy clubs were closed on him, and he appeared on TV. And Steve tells us that this path was a reason for what he is now. If he had appeared on television from the beginning, we would not have found him the current Steve with the experiences, stories, ideas, and unique personality. So everything that happened in Steve's story was leading him to the path of success. His belief in God and then himself allowed him to reach the top, and he deserves it because he used his gift and continued to work despite all the circumstances. He was positive and refused to give up. The turn of Steve's story was at the station of Florida when he was about to give up, but he refused. That is the turning point. Steve refused to give up, and you, my friend, if you decide to give up, Steve will tell you that there is one thing that he will guarantee you, and that is that the thing you want to achieve will never happen. But if you do not give up, and as long as the possibility exists, even if it's 0.1%, you'll be able to achieve your dream one day. As for giving up, it eliminates even this possibility. The real meaning of jump is to jump out of the comfort zone in which you live. Most of us are afraid of the unknown, and this is what makes us refuse to take the risks. And because of this, when we are comfortable in a situation, we do not want to change it. Steve says that you must be comfortable that you are uncomfortable. There is hard work and there is fatigue, and there are many jumps from place to place. Every comfort zone you live in, you must jump to the second zone. Some of us want to start a project, but he's afraid of losing and afraid that his jump will cause some damage. Steve tells you to jump. What's wrong? Failed once? Twice? Thrice? You failed 100 times, but you are striving to reach your dream, and you have not stopped. So you will arrive at the end, and be confident of that. You will not succeed as many times you have failed, be sure of that. All the legends of this life have failed in many things. things. Their success may cover their failures, but make sure that they failed more than they succeeded, because that's how the universe works. You'll fail 99 times and succeed once, but that success will be greater than the times you failed with, because you need success only once. What you have to do is learn from failure, learn from mistakes, fix them, know their causes and avoid them. It's time to jump, my friend. You should never delay the matter now. And I too have jumped. This is my first video in this channel in order to reach my goal in creating content. Now this is the only beginning, and this channel will grow little by little, and I will show you the results of this jump that I made. And I hope that you will also jump and make your dreams a reality. You have to set short-term goals to start with. You have to jump out of your comfort zone. Jump. The image that you imagine in your mind, no one can imagine it like you, and no one can achieve it or believe in it except you. And we have reached the end of the video, my friend. But here your journey begins. I hope that I have helped you even a little, and I wish you to share this video with who you think should jump. I also hope to support the video with a like, because this contributes to its spread. And do not forget to follow us on the social media links. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your invaluable time. Goodbye.